So yeah, on to Pool 5, and geez, we're motoring along, we're getting through it. This is near the last pool of the last weekend of the pool stages. And it was, I know, yeah, we'll miss them, but we
won't get to say pool again until the World Cup.
Yeah, that's an exciting thought, actually.
Yeah, that's the last time we'll talk about a pool until the World Cup.
Ooh, and we will talk about many pools in the World Cup because there are exciting ones there too. Yeah. But Pool 5 was the Edinburgh show, and before the tournament, you wouldn't have thought that, looking at a pool consisting of Montpellier and Toulon. Yeah, I was touting Edinburgh this season more than any other season that I've seen them going like, there's something going on. There's something going on there.
You like them last year as well. I mean, they ended up, their season ended up ending away in Thomond Park, but they made a great late run. Beat Glasgow, won that 1872 Cup, and then they had to go to Munster and couldn't do that. Whereas this year now they have Munster coming to them, and it's rematch time. Yeah, no, that's an interesting dynamic that I hadn't actually even considered. But they dominated that group. The only team they lost to was Montpellier in Montpellier. That's right. When they got a losing bonus.
Where they got a losing bonus. So as far as like just navigating a pool and managing it, they did it better than Munster. They have the whole advantage. Better, yeah. So it's like it was really impressive. Granted, Toulon not at the races, probably skewing the rankings a bit in terms of this pool because Toulon were in there on past pedigree and they had none of it to show. Montpellier too were touted as being better than they were. This kind of iteration of Montpellier that seems to be like 90% Safas permeating the squad.
That team's 10 Safas in the starting 15.
I hate to see that in the French side. I really do. Like as much as you were saying we tend to forgive Montpellier more than Toulon for that kind of Galacticos mentality, I can't forgive that while they're losing games and playing so pathetically. It's like 10 Safas in a French team,
and a lot of passengers amongst them. And guys like Ruan Pinar, who I just wonder what he's adding.
He's 35 now as well.
It's like, crazy. And Johan Hussen at 10, who was just running lateral all game.
And then missing the crucial intercept that could have been.
Yeah, that's right.
You read it and all. And it was,
Montpellier were all over the place. I mean, Jans van Rensburg as well had a couple of horrendous plays. Certainly the big go-to men in that team were Cruden and Adolo. They're the guys who can make things happen in that back line. But outside, I think they did have Serpentine on the pitch, but I didn't see much of him. He's a guy who's definitely fading into the background day by day as further as it goes on from a Razzie perspective.
For sure, Razzie's not watching Racing despite all those Safas being there. Montpellier even there.
But it certainly their backline probably needs those two guys to be threatening in any kind of a way, a real way.
Sure.
And without them, it was pretty toothless. Like Immelman, what's he doing there? Surely there's a French lad who's more,
comparable if not better to him than I would think, you would hope.
And their pack are just nowhere near as good as they think they're big and physical and strong, but technically they're all over the place.
And they do take plays off, similar to
exposed at the scrum. Exposed. Schumann and Nell are and there are two Safas as well, but they're two of the wisest and gnarliest scrummagers in
even
Europe.
at Maltime as well. Edinburgh were lower and just like you're saying, technically more correct. And you're probably thinking maybe Montpellier edged them on the weight scale.
I'm sure they did.
They probably do, but it's like it's not culminating in anything demonstrable on the pitch.
A guy like even Ben Toulis, who when we first saw him, almost in a Devon Toner like way, he was almost a punchline because he was this big body. He wasn't using mad hair. He wasn't using it right. He was sort of lumbering around the pitch. And now, it's not just well coached; it's well drilled. It's drilled into this team to do everything well.
There was one impressive maul that they had that I think may have led to either the try or one of their 3-pointers. But they had a lovely wedge going, and it was Toulis and Gilchrist, the two rows up in the front, creating that phalanx and just lovely structure in behind. And they were dominant, and they just looked like the more organised side, which was the same thing we were highlighting before they went over to Toulon. And absolutely another basket case in the current state of affairs in terms of everything they're doing on the pitch and off, it seems, even though we're not privy to all that. But Edinburgh are just showing great virtue in just doing the basics and being drilled in them, because it wasn't a glamorous performance up in Murrayfield, and there probably were some scores that were left out there. There were definitely mistakes made by both, but it was Edinburgh who were the ones who were calmer in it and had more of a notion of how they were going to manage the game. And then they managed to get to a 2-score game and hold them there.
That's it. They take their opportunities when they get them, and they punish your mistakes.
Yes.
So when you give a sloppy penalty away, And this may come back to bite them, because definitely we have been proponents in this podcast of taking chances when you get them.
Yeah.
And that's not really what they think. They just think we'll take points. We'll take points.
3 pointer, get into an area, 3 points.
And we'll just exploit your mistakes. I mean, for the try itself, I mean, they were pounding on the line, but like, there was... Like when the space is finally there on the right hand side, it was there for a while. The ball was at the base. Pyrgos was digging for it, and then Jacques Duplessis got up, meandered, filled the space on the blind side of the ruck that caught him, and then decided, I don't like it over here.
Jacques Duplessis had a muck game,
Yeah.
and then he decided
He
at
walked
some
around
point
to
in the
the
first
open
half that he
side.
needed to score a try, which he did, and he took it very well. But he
walked around to the open side then after covering the blind side, left no one in that space, and Pyrgos just popped
fall
it.
over. Yeah,
And it was
It
unreal.
was the reverse angle that showed that, where he just like would it, and then the try goes in there, and you're just like, dude. It's
So
like,
there's
what are you doing?
there's no like everything that Edinburgh do have, they don't. Discipline. They're well drilled. They're organised. They know exactly what they're doing. They're confident. They're focused.
Yeah.
None of that exists in Montpellier. But Edinburgh continue to impress. And while it wasn't a vintage performance from them by any stretch,
it wasn't champagne rugby for sure. It was ugly.
And there were mistakes in there as well.
Yeah.
They were a little too comfortable. Like you say, like they probably were more than 9 points better than Montpellier, and yet they threw that loose pass. Jacob van der Walt threw that loose pass.
Could have been a 2-point game with a few minutes left,
and a squeaky end.
So it was there, but for the drop of little Hussen,
which Goosen, if you want to be a Brit about it.
No. Hussen.
I
want to try and our South African commenters can correct my pronunciation if it's that horrible, but I'll make an effort. But yeah, no, it was that was close, and that's an example of just they're probably not all there yet. It's probably a little window of hope as far as Munster are concerned, whereby like Munster could.
I like what they do.
It's a really good game actually. It's probably my favourite fixture of all the quarterfinals is Munster having to go to Edinburgh, where they've shown ropey signs away from home all season. Edinburgh have shown ferocity and comfort at home comparatively. Edinburgh play a forward oriented style. They probably haven't met a pack like Munster's yet, so that's an interesting battle.
But I like Edinburgh if it's even.
If they get parity, I think they're more organised out back.
They have, as you say, they have the form number 8 in the world in Bill Mada. They have a really good system that plays everybody into the game. So they run great lines off each other. They know Mada's going to offload, so they get him on the ball with a bit of go for it and run lines off him. But they also mix it up. You know, you never see an Edinburgh play a game where Darcy Graham or Duhan van der Merwe are frozen out of a game. They always get on the ball.
They usually get on the board.
They usually get on the board. Exactly. They play everybody in the team into the game. Kinghorn as well as another guy we haven't touched on.
Well,
he's very good.
Like I've mentioned him in weeks gone by. If anyone's been watching, he has been a difference maker in that side as far as just accessing those wide channels. Because there were times in years gone by where it wasn't Darcy Graham, but their wingers were just frozen, pointless entities in a losing game because they're not seeing the ball because they didn't have a fullback who could link with a 10, and it means offloads a bit of responsibility from their 10, and like Pyrgos is just quickly shipping it out, and there are options available, so it feels like it's a kind of a low pressure game for them to play because it's not that complicated, it's not that flashy, but everyone knows what they're trying to do, so you don't need to be the best 10 in the world to execute that game plan, because there are good players around them who know their roles. It's just maybe the only question mark about it is maybe that's a bit too limited, and maybe their attitude towards 3-pointers are ultimately not.
But I don't know if Munster are the team to punish that.
Maybe not.
Certain matchup wise, right now, I would fancy Edinburgh. The only thing that changes is that right now they're definitely riding something of a momentum wave. Over the last month and a half. And that's going to completely
shift. And if Scotland have a dogged, terrible Six Nations, then that all changes.
They pick up a couple of injuries and everything changes. You know, Kinghorn goes down, or McAnally goes down. You know,
McAnally goes down. That'll be terrible for them. So there's that's why it's kind of pointless. I think we had them listed out the quarterfinals after this, but I think once we finish this pool we'll probably wrap it up because we've already kind of touched on them anyway. Just to briefly mention the other sides who were in that pool. Toulon, obviously we did a bit more of a thorough breakdown where we got a bit tetchy and a bit like there's a lot that can be said about Toulon and all the things that they did wrong, and it was enjoyable to see them this season flounder and fail at the hands of Edinburgh, another enjoyable factor, and I think that's deserving. And Newcastle, they lost to Newcastle as well before Christmas, which is like 30. As far as Newcastle are concerned, decent showing. For the first time back in the tournament.
I mean, listen, they had that 2-week run.
They did.
I said they would win the Champions Cup final, and they didn't win against us.
They proved you wrong.
They
demonstrated how not the case that was.
mean it really, but I was throwing it out
Going to
there,
renege on that.
and it didn't happen.
Yes.
They lost all the games after that.
Well, Edinburgh did for them.
The last 2 weeks, like home loss to that Toulon team and that horrendous stuffing at the hands of Montpellier.
It was terrible to see how happy that Toulon team were with that. But then I discovered that's their first away win in 11 months. 11 months. Toulon hadn't won away until last weekend.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was something came up in commentary, and then they were all like very, very delighted with it, and I'm just like, that's a very strange picture to see Toulon fist pumping, having beaten Newcastle just
a dead rubber against a team that is not in any kind of form. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, strange ones.
They're awful. Toulon are really all over the place this year. Are they? Oh, jeez, I don't even know where they are in the top couture, but they could miss out on Europe this year.
I would hope so. It would be so deserving because it would nullify their World Cup spendathon, and that would be great if they don't get European honours.
It's a lower incentive. The trouble with Toulon is they were the only. They were one of very few big dogs in the big dog club, and they first splashed out on everybody. You know, now it's a competitive market. You know, if Ben Smith, as we know he is going to depart and play in France, I mean the offers are up. I mean the value, like he can go to any club he wants, and they'll pay the money over there. So Toulon have their hands full if they want to really assemble a great team, and just the way they go about it, they are now sort of inexorably tied. Their fate is tied to Bouchelal's because they haven't built anything in the interim where they were this great team who got all this European pedigree. You know, as Bouchelal goes, so will Toulon. Yeah, and you know, I foresee
no sympathy. I
foresee them. Yeah. I foresee them perhaps not for a while because Bouchelal is still very much enjoying his toy.
Yes. Yeah.
I foresee ultimate decline.
Yeah.
For Toulon.
Yeah. There's no infrastructure.
Indeed,
there.
they may have peaked. Johnny Wilkinson era and those 300.
It'd be very hard to recapture some of that. Yeah. But yeah, and certainly even make a run for it. But Montpellier as well are an anomalous one. Similar vibe, similar criticism could be levelled.
Only with Montpellier you have a city of I don't know how many people, a very large city. It's not like Toulon, which is a small town artificially inflated.
Yeah.
This is a big city. In the rugby, it is a football city, but it's in the rugby part of the country.
And that Montpellier club is steeped in tradition as well. Have a lot of respect for the top coutures and now Europe.
Not to mention there's academies all around. There's young kids playing and watching rugby all throughout the south of France. Montpellier have less of an excuse for being what they are at the moment.
It's true. I find it more disappointing. 10 South Africans started that game. Oh, I would be if I were a diehard Montpellier fan. I would be near protest at that point. Like, who are the line-out calls in English? I'd imagine they are. And it's like, what is going on here? Like, how do I cheer for that? I don't know. But then we're a bit detached being Leinster fans because it's like the opposite spectrum, where it's like any import who comes in has to be bloody good.
Tell that to Toulouse who are up the road. You know.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's probably making allowances now where I probably ought not to be because there are a lot of English clubs that are guilty of the same kind of thinking, and I think equally wrong-headed.
I like Nadolo as a Cheslin Colby-esque inspiration world-class winger, and Cruden you can keep around to teach people, even if he's injured, just to teach the ropes.
Yeah, but
everybody else
in the back line should be French.
Yeah.
Built around those two lads.
Yeah,
that'd be great. That'd be much better. And surely there are French lads of a comparable standard to what we're seeing, because even if they're great names and they are great players, it's a rudderless way of creating a team.
Jesse Mogg Nick White touched over there for a while back when Jake White was in charge. Like it's nothing's right really.
No, they're not really building anything, and
like a pale imitation of Jake White's Brumbies for a while, and now since they've just tried to become South Africa, I guess.
It seems so, and it's wrong. Then they lost to Cockerill's Edinburgh Tigers. They look really good value for it.
Big time.
So we'll wrap that up anyway. And the quarterfinals, just to wrap it up, I suppose, are top seeding Sarries v Glasgow.
Yep,
great fixture. Hard to see past Sarries, considering we've seen that happen twice already. Leinster v Ulster, similar buzz. I'm hard pressed to see Leinster losing that game. And then the two that are more competitive, I feel, Racing Toulouse. Yeah. That's a toss of the coin in my head. I'm going to give it lean towards Racing purely on the home precedent where I've seen it happen in this kind of where you try and break down the quarterfinals and think, oh, this team could do this and this, and then what ends up happening is 4 home wins, and it's just like that can happen a lot. So I'm going to lean towards Racing, but hopeful for Toulouse. And then what is a great fixture is a Pro 14 fixture in Edinburgh, Munster, and
I think it's so great. Like, we knew Leinster, probably Munster, Toulouse. Not Toulouse, Racing and Saracens were probably top 4. There was a broader top 6, and the 2 entrants into that this year have been Toulouse and Edinburgh. And
who'd have thunk it?
Great. I mean, Richard Cockerill cannot get enough praise.
We tip in our hat on this podcast to everything that Richard Cockerill's done, career-wise for sure, but also in the context of this Edinburgh project, he has really created something. And I'm curious to see how far they can go.
Very smart guy.
Yeah. Munster still have a lot of pedigree, still have a lot of class throughout, still have a lot of problems. Yeah, and it's like,
well, the way they beat Edinburgh is by nullifying them by just beating them at the scrum. That they're so good at the scrum. Like, John Ryan gets the better of Schumann, and Kilcoyne gets the better of Nell, and then
Peter O'Mahony spoils a few of their ball setups, and it's all like
it's just that pack outplays them, and that
could happen.
Totally,
that
could
happen.
It's
very, very possible. But if it doesn't. I kind of back Edinburgh.
I don't
that's
even
what's interesting.
Kind of back Edinburgh. I totally back Edinburgh. If Edinburgh can achieve pack parity, they're golden.
Yeah. So that's a fascinating game, and those are the quarterfinals. So with that, we'll
wrap up the beginning of Europe. Thanks for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you want to subscribe, there should be a button up here. Don't forget to give us a like and share with your friends, and please leave comments down below. We love the conversation. Thanks.